I get a feeling of such genuine joy whenever I introduce a new habit into my life. I can barely contain myself from laughing right now because it's so true. If I figure out something that will just make my life 0.1% better, a new way of eating, a new way of working out, a new way of structuring my day, I can go for days feeling deeply joyful. And I'm here with the founder of Great.com, Eric Bergman, a man that I know has similar personality traits. Hi, Eric.
Hello, my good friend Emil. It's good to be here, and I can totally relate. So yeah, I would put myself in the folder of addicted to creating habits as well. And I can feel myself giggling just thinking about how wonderful habits can be. It sounds like the most boring sentence ever. Thank you. I'm good. And I'm here with my good friend Emil, and the host of this podcast, who was the first one to join me in Great. And we're here to talk about habits. How are you today, my good friend?
I feel wonderful. I feel, actually, because my habits are so much in order right now, I feel more balanced than I have felt in many years. So for you listening, this is going to be a pretty straightforward and fast-paced episode where me and Eric go through some habits that we feel really benefit our lives. So, hey, I feel ready to get started.
And some surprising habits. I think that's worth mentioning here.
Yeah, there's surprising habits.
It's not the obvious habits that people talk about in powerful habits in general. It's like our weird little habits that still make a big difference.
Yeah. That is a valuable distinction.
See what I did there?
So you're ready to get going?
Yeah, throw me in there.
Eric, give me a habit that you do that maybe most people don't, that you really feel is benefiting your life.
So the habit that I've realized quite recently that I'm doing a lot, and I'm not sure if I used to do it, I've always done it. It's not like it's something that I've deliberately put into my routine. It's just something that I realize that I do a lot, and that's self-reflection. I find myself a lot just thinking about what has happened today. What did I do in that conversation? How did I talk to my fiance about this thing? And just reflecting on, okay, what did I do? Why did I do it? What was my intention behind it? And what was the effect? And just stopping to think a lot about these things and feel and learn from them.
Okay. Can we slow down a little bit
No.
in the end? Because I want to get this clear. Because self-reflection, we're talking about surprising habits, right? And self-reflection, I think, is something that many people do. So you're not saying that you're doing it at a special time of the day or anything like that. You're saying that you are self-reflecting in a way that is maybe a little bit different. And you said a couple of things there.
Yes, I think one...
What is your...
Yeah, go. Ask your question.
So I guess you have a habit for how you self-reflect. So what is the structure you have for self-reflection?
I'm not sure if I have a habit for how I do it, actually. More that I try to do it every time something intense have happened, either good or bad. It's more often when it's bad, I'd say. But it's also, I think one thing that changed a lot is that I have more time today where I don't have any input. And what I mean by that is I spend more time walking or running without podcasts or music or anything in my ears. And that gives my brain time to wander more, and it wanders more to what has been going on lately and how could I have done that differently. So I don't have a habit of every evening writing a journal and see what has happened, what could I have done better, which is probably a great habit to have, but more to create space in my everyday life where I'm not really doing anything, preferably walking. I like walking, and just letting my brain wander and see how did I interact with this. And I've also realized that I become a lot more present in everyday life moments. Like when something has happened, I get more aware of my intention behind it. What's happening now? Why am I feeling like this? And constantly adapting to that.
Right. I think this is a very important habit to have. And you say that the habit you have is when something happens that feels a little bit off, maybe you didn't like how you acted, maybe someone said something and you feel an uncomfortable feeling in your body and you don't really know why. And you have an hour to spare to go to the gym or run or whatever it is. So the habit is to, instead of listening to a podcast there or calling a friend, you spend that time doing nothing so your brain can process it.
Yeah. And it's come out of nowhere. I haven't intentionally started to reflect more. I might have reflected all my life. I haven't just thought about it before. But I'm thinking a lot more about it now than I did previously.
Yeah, I can totally relate. And I have increased that amount in my life recently. Yesterday, for example, I was done working at 9 in the evening. I did some different projects. And then I spent 1 hour just laying in the couch, looking at the ceiling. And I know me 3 years ago would have watched a series or something like that. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. And at the same time, I feel like introducing time of doing nothing is super beneficial to increase self-awareness.
Yeah. So you can say that parts of the habit is self-reflection, and the tool for that self-reflection is, well, time spent without activities. And I prefer walking to lying on the couch, but that's just time for the brain that you don't have things going into it, so you can actually start sorting the things that's happened.
Right. So instead of self-reflection, we could call this habit making time for doing nothing.
Yeah, I like that.
Or no input time.
No input time. Yeah, I like that better, because you can do things, but it's just important that you don't feed your brain with a lot of stuff at that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's go to you, Emil. What's been one of your unexpected habits? Unexpected habits. Or if you want to share an unnecessary habit.
I never heard such an insult. Okay, so we're obviously not going to agree on this one. And Eric is doing a Freudian slip right now.
I have no idea what a Freudian slip is.
Freudian slip is when you say something because you subconsciously have an opinion that is like leaking out. Okay, so some disagreement coming up. Okay, so a habit that I haven't implemented yet, that I have tried to implement for a long time, that I'm struggling with, but I'm now making progress with, and that is why I'm so excited about it and why I want to share it now, is to have absurdly regular patterns of eating, working out, and sleeping. Meaning that I schedule my time, so I do eating, training, sleeping pretty much the same time every day, including weekends.
And what are those times?
So my structure right now is that, I'm also playing around with a shorter eating window. So right now I'm eating for about 5 hours of the day. So 12:30 every day. And this, of course, is difficult to do if you work in an office. But if you're an entrepreneur, you have more control over your time. It becomes more doable. So 12:30, I go to the gym or play paddle or whatever I do every day. I come home, I make lunch that is finished around 2:30. And then I eat for half an hour.
Can you really use the word around if you're super specific? I'm not sure you can call it absurdly regular if you have the word.
Okay,
I'm just kidding with you.
Do you know the character Bamse? Is that an international character?
No, it's not international. It's a Swedish, very kind bear.
Okay, so there's a character there. He's a turtle. He has a watch. And whenever it rings for sleep, he's always sleeping, no matter where he is. So I have there is an idea world. And in the idea world, things are perfect and in perfect timing. And then in this dirty world with humans and emotions and things happening, things become a little bit different all the time, right? So in the idea world, I go to the gym 12:30, I eat 2:30, I rest until 4, and then I start the second half of my day. So
you work in the morning between 8 and 12-ish, and then you work after 4-ish to whenever.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then I have my second meal at 7. So 7 to 8, I have a 1 hour rest again. And then I have 2-3 hours before I go to bed where I do like household upkeep, some minor tasks. I get quite creative in the evening as well.
And what benefits have you seen from this?
Well, for starters, I feel like I'm doing this for... It's not binary. I've been ramping up this effect for 2 months now. But the last 2-3 weeks of my life, I never had this much energy and I never felt this creative. It's a quite substantial difference between my previous routines that were I was working out late in the evening, eating super late before bed. So I think my sleep patterns are much better and I'm fasting more and I make less decisions throughout my day. So if I don't have to think about should I train now at lunch or at evening, when should I eat, because I put these things in my calendar, right? So no one can book in time with me between 12:30 and 4. So that is freeing up my mind, having less decisions, which I feel leads to more energy and more creativity.
Makes sense. So we'll do a revisit to this habit 6 months from now and see if you keep it.
Yeah, for sure. It might be... So, not all habits are winners, right? Me and Eric I tried a meat diet last year. Didn't work at all. Like, it sounded good on before. Didn't work at all. Have you done any habit that you tried to do that was failing miserably?
Any habit that I've tried? Well, lots of habits that I've tried to do that have been failing miserably. One is that I've been wanting to learn speed reading for a very long time. So I've had in my calendar every day for like 2 years, I've had practice speed reading and that just doesn't happen.
Right.
It's a really good thing in theory. I would love to be able to read 1,000 pages an hour. I just don't.
Yeah. But this highlights as well that creating a lot of a life where you have a lot of good habits requires a lifestyle where you try to implement a lot of habits that are gonna be shitty.
Yeah,
so this might be a horrible idea that I can't stick to at all, but I do believe in the idea.
Yeah, I have a habit of failing habits. I have a habit of succeeding with some as well. Some of them stick, but the vast majority probably don't. Yeah, let's move on.
Let's move on. So what is the second habit? The surprising habit?
Probably the most surprising habit of them all is acting like a dog. So what does that really mean? Okay, so this comes from a book and a fun post that I saw on Facebook once. Basically describing dogs as the most happy and loved creatures on the planet, because dogs give a lot of love to everyone they see. They are a lot in their emotions. They don't overthink or overanalyze bad things. You're just going with it. And whenever they're meeting someone, they're just throwing themselves at them with love and welcoming energy. And when I first realized this, when I read this, like, that makes a lot of sense. Everyone loves dogs for pretty much no other reason than that they share love. And
they're super playful as well.
Yeah, they're super playful.
Super curious.
Yeah, it's like they take on life with the same energy as a 6-year-old, kind of. They go smell everything, touch everything, play with everything. And I've gotten into the habit of often asking myself, what would a dog do? And then I go with that. One thing that I apply this on is whenever someone comes to our house to visit, I run to meet them at the door. I jump excitedly. And sometimes I scare people's babies when they bring their babies, because you're not supposed to jump on people. But everyone laughs, everyone smiles, everyone is having fun with it, unless they're a teeny tiny child that gets scared. And I get excited about it. So just getting into the habit of thinking, what would a dog do? And then just do it has improved my life dramatically.
There's a funny thing I've learned from you that you don't know of. And that is, when you open a door, you're sticking your head out of the door.
Yeah.
And I realized that how someone opens a door is an indicator of how introverted or extroverted is the person. So you are one of the most extroverted people I know. So your head is a lot outside of the door when you open it. So someone that would open the door and then take 4 steps back, that would be a super introverted person.
Yeah, but for me, that comes from the dog practice. That's not something I used to do. That's something I'm doing now. A dog would do that. Like, hey!
An extroverted dog, for sure.
That's true.
Most of them are.
So that's my second habit. Acting like a dog in the best kind of way. What's your second habit, David?
My second habit is a super secret computer software that allows my memory to be 10 times more reliable.
Is NASA okay with you revealing this secret?
I am NASA.
You are NASA. You're NASA.
That didn't make any sense.
Secret NASA. Okay, tell about this eternal memory software.
So, before I started working at Great, I was working as a professional poker player for 7-10 years, something like that. And the biggest mistake that I ever did as a poker player was to forget things. And by that, I meant that me and the friends that I was studying with to become better, we spent maybe an hour analyzing, doing math on how to play perfectly in a specific poker hand. So that the next time that situation comes around, we know what to do. So now we spend all this time doing the math, but then maybe this was a quite rare situation that isn't happening that often. So it happened again, but maybe a month, 2 months later. And then I had forgotten all the maths that I had done. So that time was just useless. I don't know how many hours of trying to get better that I just wasted because things were not repeated before they happened again.
So that you could say that would basically be like learning a word for your Spanish class or whatever, but it's a rare word. So you just learn it once and then you forget about it until you need to use it the next time, and you go look it up 3 months again later, and then you don't remember it and you go do it again 3 months later instead of like actively studying it the first time so you remember it.
Exactly. So if you don't remember that word 3 months later, it's not going to be useful to you. And I think where this comes most in handy is in life situations. You talked about reflection earlier.
Yeah.
So let's say something happens and you act in a way that you don't prefer to do it.
Yeah.
You reflect upon that and say, oh, next time I'm definitely going to do this instead.
Yeah.
And then a similar situation doesn't happen for another year. And then after that year has passed, you're in the same situation, and lo and behold, you act like a jackass once again. Man, I was thinking about that 1 year ago. Yeah, but you didn't remember because you were not repeating it in between. So to me, repetition is the mother of all learning. Maybe that's a Swedish expression. Anyway, you get it. It's repetition is important for learning.
I love that you say, to me, the repetition is the mother of all learning, and then maybe that's a Swedish expression. Maybe I didn't come up with that myself. Yeah,
I hold that perspective.
Some smart person have said that.
Yes. So what this software, what you do is when you reflect, which is a good habit, like we talked about, you write down what your conclusion is. My principle is, next time this happens, I'm going to do this instead. You put this into the software that you then have on your phone, which makes you, and then it comes up as flashcards, and you repeat what you have learned in intervals, so you don't forget it until the next time it happens. So everything
it's an app.
I learn, it's an app.
Yeah.
Everything I learn. If it's a word I didn't know in English, if it's the capital of a country I wasn't aware of, if it is a life lesson, if it is something I learn on YouTube, I take a screenshot of the image and I put it into the software.
It sounds like a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. So this means that I'm learning new things slower, but my education or the rate at which I gain awareness to me is speeding up because I don't forget things that I have learned before. So if I read a book, I will remember the important things from that book 5 years later, 10 years later, because I repeat it all the time. Like, because I look at my bookshelf back here and I have a lot of books there. I couldn't point out anything specific from most of them because I just have a vague idea of what that book tried to communicate, but I don't know any facts, I don't know any numbers, I don't remember any specific things that were said in that book.
Yeah. So this is complicated. I'm trying to kind of compartmentalize this in a way where it's easy to explain, and I'm using this app as well. And it's really complex, but it creates an eternal memory. And what I'm hearing from Emil here is like he's using this app to take down notes when he reads a book. So whatever was important from this book, what is the key insights that matter the most? And he puts it into this app, and this app helps him to regularly study this. Like once a week in the beginning, and then once a month, and then once every year, just reading through the notes from this book. Yeah. And what the app does is it reminds you to look at the notes pretty much.
Almost. I think a big upgrade from that is that I'm not always rereading what I learned. I'm constantly testing me if I remember what I learned. So in the app, I don't put information, I put questions. Okay. So for example...
and answers.
Exactly. So on one side of the card is which year was the Great Depression in the US? Just as a very easy example. And then on the back side, I have the answer. So if I know it, I pass, and that card gets repeated again in the future. If I don't, it gets repeated tomorrow. So I'm not reading my notes, I'm testing myself if I remember the life lesson or the information.
Okay.
And that's the key to memory. The answer needs to come from within, not something you read for you to really remember.
And what's the name of this software, this app?
Anki.
Anki, A-N-K-I.
Yes, and I'm sure we will have full episodes on this later. I will definitely make YouTube videos about this because I think it's so important. And the final thing is you put images in there. Your brain remembers images so much more than text or speech.
Yeah. So the way when I talk about Anki is usually saying that, okay, this is a really hard way. This takes a lot of work, but it creates an eternal memory that is revolutionizing how well you can remember anything. And it's so much speeded up my personal development. So Anki, flashcards, and I probably used it on average 5 minutes per day for the past 2-3 years, something like that. So basically as reminding myself of things that have mattered on average 5 minutes per day.
Yeah. And I think I'm on 12 minutes a day, and that is the amount of minutes that I spend on the toilet per day.
Yeah.
So that is, I remind myself of the important stuff in my life instead of time I would spend browsing through Instagram probably.
Yeah.
So that is a big upgrade in habits.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an amazing habit. It takes effort, but if you want to be badass, then I can highly recommend it.
I agree. I feel ready to move on.
Let's do that.
So, shasmack. Number 3.
I'm the scat man. Yeah. I was gonna go into singing mood. So, my habit, number 3, this is probably the habit I'm trying to get most other people to do because I'm ridiculously, annoyingly proud of it. And it's smoothies. I love smoothies. I'm a person who... Okay, if I could eat a pill every day and that didn't require me to think anything more about food, I probably would. I think about food as medicine, something I require more than this eternal joy of life that other people might think about food. So what I've been doing in my life is how can I create a simple meal that is super healthy, takes very little time to prepare, and tastes good enough. So I'm not trying to sell this smoothie as the best tasting thing you've ever experienced, but the ratio between how good it tastes, how good it is for me, and how long it takes to prepare is ridiculously good. It ranks really high on these things. And I think that if you are building a healthy food diet, I believe that there are probably 4 things that are the most important thing to make sure that you keep this habit. First thing is that it needs to taste decently good. The better it tastes, the easier it is. It needs to be easy to prepare. The easier it is to prepare, the easier it is to keep that habit. It needs to be good for you, because if you're creating a shitty habit, it doesn't really make sense. And it needs to be pretty cheap. this smoothie is actually quite expensive, I would say. But if you tick those 4 boxes, I think it's quite easy to create a good habit.
And you're replacing a meal with this smoothie.
I'm replacing a meal. So I'm having a smoothie at least 6 days per week, almost 7, I would say, the same smoothie every day. And I've prepared this. I have bags in the freezer with everything in them. So I do smoothie bags once every 3 weeks or something. I prepare 20 bags and put them in the freezer, and then just put a bag in the blender with water and go for it. And this smoothie is, the foundation is half a banana, half an avocado, like 100 grams of raspberries, 100 grams of blueberries, spinach, and broccoli. All of it frozen. And then I'm adding ginger and turmeric and a lot of different superfood powders like spirulina, moringa, cinnamon, pretty much everything that I can come up there with that sounds healthy in the store. It probably is a better way of making the smoothie, especially with those super powders and things. But this takes pretty much everything. And I have either olive oil or coconut oil in it as well to get some healthy fats. And I'm replacing one meal every day with this. And I think that if you want to apply a healthy eating habit, changing your breakfast or whatever the first meal of your day is, if you're eating breakfast, is the easiest way of doing it, because most people, I would say, eat the same breakfast every day. But if you're changing, most people would not eat the same dinner every day. So it's quite easy to change the breakfast or change any meal into a smoothie. And I believe that if I could only eat one meal a day and I ate that smoothie, I would probably be in pretty good shape for a very long time, and it would cover most of my needs. So yeah, that's my habit number 3. Dum 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 dum.
So, as a total health nerd, there are 2 things I really like about this. There are many things, more than 2, but 2 things sticks out. First is I totally like the ingredients you have there. I think it's very close to what I would see as a optimal all-around smoothie. And secondly, I think for someone who's trying to eat healthier, I think my experience is that maybe the most important thing is to remove the worst decisions. Like remove maybe a meal where we have a lot of sugar or we have a lot of fried stuff. And if you can take one meal and take away the decision-making process, that means that you basically have only one meal to fuck up.
Yeah.
That's why I like to remove the breakfast. And people say, but breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Yes, it's the most important meal of the day to not do something stupid. Because if you do, you're gonna have cravings for more stupid things. I don't like the word stupid. Unhealthy. Because then you're gonna have cravings for more unhealthy things later on during the day.
Yeah, that's very true. So if you start by eating sugar in the morning, it's more likely that you would want more sugar during the day.
Exactly. So you are not eating breakfast that often, I think.
Yeah.
And you're eating this smoothie for lunch, which means that there's only one meal where you will make unhealthy decisions. And by that time, you won't have a lot of sugar cravings or other things.
And probably if I had pizza every night and I had that smoothie every lunch, for example, I would still deal pretty decently with life.
Yeah, because your body get a lot of time to recover in between those meals. So I really like it.
Smoothies for life! Come on, Emil, give me your third one.
Okay, so the habit that I have implemented that I think can have the most positive effect on my life is that I am completely sober.
Woohoo!
From alcohol and from anything. And I've been that for soon 3 years now.
That's big.
Mm-hmm.
And in what way has that been good for you? Let's start in another direction. How did your life look before that?
So before I was not drinking a lot, but I was having a couple of glasses when I was going out. And once in a while, I was smoking weed. Like maybe once every 2 weeks on some periods, maybe once per week. And the effect that had is that I really felt like the weed was slowing me down. Like I just became less motivated, and I became a bit dependent on that substance to relax.
Okay.
And when I was going out, I felt like the alcohol is not really I feel the side effects much more than I feel the good effects.
Okay.
So I would start sleeping much worse. Like whenever I was drinking, if I came home at 3, I would wake up at 7 and feel super shitty from the lack of sleep.
Yeah.
But I would say the most beneficial effect I've had from it is that it has made me better socially, and it had made me more aware of my emotions. Because if I go out and I'm maybe pushing my comfort zone, being social, or I'm talking to strangers, or I'm talking to women, that creates an uncomfortable feeling in my body. And alcohol is an anesthetic, if that's the right word. It's numbing it. So by not numbing my sensations, I become more aware of them, I become more comfortable with them, and it really makes me grow as a person in my experience.
Okay, so let's say you're going up to some woman in a bar somewhere, you feel more uncomfortable, which is the reason why drinking would make you less uncomfortable, but you actually feel the benefits of feeling the uncomfortable feelings. Could that invites you to grow as a person and being more okay with feeling those feelings as well, because you have felt them more?
For sure.
They become less scary because you get used to them.
Exactly. And right now I wouldn't go up to a woman in a bar because I'm dating the most beautiful woman I have ever seen that I'm so deeply in love with. And she's also sober. And when we met, that was at a club in the night. I was completely sober. She was also sober. We hanged out until 3 a.m. She went home, I went home. And the next day we met each other again at a beach here in Stockholm where I live. And it's such a good start of meeting someone that I'm exactly the same. Like I have this personality when I'm going out. I have this personality when I'm meeting someone on a date. I have this personality with you. I'm me all the time. Yeah,
that's a very good point. It's like if you're meeting someone in a bar and you have altered your personality with drugs or alcohol, and then you meet someone else, the same person 2 days later, soberly, you're not going to be the same person.
Yeah. It creates confidence to be sober all the time. And also it frees up my mind for always, because when I was drinking, I was always a thought in my head that said, I could feel a little bit better right now. And a quick way to do it is to alter me.
Yeah. It becomes a shortcut. And whenever you get used to taking the shortcuts, you're not doing the work or growing. So, and if you're drinking alcohol, then over a lifespan where instead of finding healthy ways to get to good feelings, you find unhealthy shortcuts. And over time that you don't ever really learn to get to the healthy place, the happy place without it.
Exactly. I'm super consistent with meditation, with reflection, things like that, because that's so necessary for me to feel good sober.
I like that. I like that way of looking at it, that sure, alcohol can make you feel good in the moment, but if you drink this year, you're not going to learn the skills that would make you feel good in the moment a year from now anyway. So You're kind of always taking a shortcut.
Exactly.
I like that way of thinking about it. So it becomes a very important personal development tool, because, we're having negative feelings for a reason, and they're usually good for us one way or another. Yeah. They're showing us that this is something that would be good for us to work on. For example, if we find that it's scary to go up and talk to women, it's probably a very good skill to learn, because it can help us in so many places of life. For sure.
And I had a lot of fears before I started this. I was afraid, what are my friends going to think of me?
Yeah, that's a very interesting aspect of this. Well, did they?
No. Like, I thought every time I go out, people are going to be, oh, why are you not drinking? Oh, you're boring. You're not participating with us. But it was such an anticlimax because no one just said anything. People were just, okay, you do your thing.
Do you think it would have been the same if you were 22?
I'm not sure, actually. Maybe that would have, some friends would have created more pressure. But no, I think people don't care as much about us as we might think.
That's probably true.
And I think it depends on which energy you're going in with. So the second thing I was really afraid of is that I would become boring and that I would stop going out and that I would stop being social.
Yeah, and that didn't happen.
No, I'm actually going out more, I think, because I'm sober, because there are not as many consequences of me doing it. I can still do the same thing the next day. I still get good sleep and stuff. And when I'm out, I get my positive emotions from being social and talking with people.
Yeah. And
instead
you can
of
drive.
standing at a bar drinking. Yeah, and I drive to the club when I go out.
Everything is
Super
much
convenient.
cheaper.
Yeah, everything is cheaper. So, yeah, so I find that I'm actually more fun to be with when I'm out, because I'm always clear, I'm asking good questions, I'm super enthusiastic, because I have to be, otherwise I get bored. So people around me see that, okay, he's actually not boring.
You kind of have to be like a dog. You have to be enthusiastic.
Right? Be like a dog when you're out and prove to people that you're not boring.
Yeah, go up and hump them on their legs. That's
exactly.
Soberly hump people on their legs. That's the good way of being in a bar. Good habit.
Good habit. All right. I feel done. I feel like this was fun to talk about.
Yeah, I like habits.
Yeah.
So, Emil, if anyone wants to support us, what could they do?
Ooh, what we would love for you to do is that if you're listening to this on a podcast, go and press the subscribe button. And the reason why that would help us out a lot is that if you're gonna get into top lists or not as a podcast, that doesn't depend on the amount of listeners. It depends on the ratio of listeners that hit subscribe. So if you do, then we're gonna show up to a lot more people who who would benefit from the message we are trying to share here.
I like that. And we just got into our first top list, which was like,
woohoo! We did, thanks to you guys pressing that subscribe button. So, hey, for real, big thank you, because you must have pressed the subscribe button for that to happen.
Yeah, so we just got this message from iTunes saying like, hey, you are the number 19th ranked entrepreneur podcast in Sweden. And we're like, woohoo! So yeah, that's all thanks to you pressing the subscribe button, and it really helps us. And we've been doing this for a year now, and now we finally see things picking up, more people starting to listening, more people sharing it, and it's so fun.
It's super exciting, super motivating. It makes me really want to put everything I got into these conversations and the preparation. Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for listening, and we'll see you in a week.
See you next week.
Boom.